Free phone calls. That's all it took. Free conversations between finance ministers that changed everything. I can't tell you who made them. I can't tell you exactly when. But I can tell you what they discussed. And it explains why the global financial system is about to collapse. The first call happened after the United States froze Russian assets. $300 billion. Overnight. Without warning. Without due process. Without permission from any international body. America simply decided. And it was done. The finance minister of China called the finance minister of India. They didn't say much. They didn't need to. The message was clear. If America can do this to Russia, they can do it to us. The second call happened a week later. The finance minister of Saudi Arabia called the finance minister of the United Arab Emirates. Same message, different accent. If the dollar isn't safe, we need alternatives. The third call was the most important. All 5 BRICS finance ministers on a secure line. No recording, no minutes, no official record. But the decision was made. We're building a system they can't control. We're building a system they can't freeze. We're building a system they can't weaponize. These 3 phone calls triggered a cascade. Within weeks, 23 countries were discussing BRICS membership. Within months, alternative payment systems were operational. Within a year, the infrastructure was built. Now, in 2025, the transition is accelerating. And most people don't even know it's happening. But the finance ministers know. The central bankers know. The smart money knows. And that's why they're moving. If this shocks you, leave a like and comment which country you think makes the next move. Because these phone calls changed everything. And the world is just beginning to understand why. Let me explain what happened. The United States had a problem with Russia. So they did something unprecedented. They froze $300 billion in Russian assets. Not through courts, not through law, through executive order. They simply decided. And it was done. Now, you might think, that's fine. Russia is the bad guy. But here's what happened next. Every finance minister on earth looked at those frozen accounts. And they asked the same question. If they can do it to Russia, why not to us? China has $1.3 trillion in dollar reserves. What if America freezes them? Saudi Arabia has $500 billion in dollar reserves. What if America freezes them? India has $600 billion in dollar reserves. What if America freezes them? For 80 years, countries held dollars because they were safe. Safe from war. Safe from inflation. Safe from confiscation. But when America froze Russian assets, they proved that dollars were only safe if America liked you. That changed everything. Because safety is the only reason to hold dollars. If dollars aren't safe, why hold them? That's when the phone calls started. That's when the meetings began. That's when the planning accelerated. Within weeks, China's CIP system was processing more transactions. Within months, Russia's SBFS network was connecting new countries. Within a year, India was negotiating bilateral trade agreements that bypassed dollars entirely. The infrastructure that took decades to build could be replaced in months. Because the incentive was suddenly urgent. It wasn't theoretical anymore. It was survival. When you realize your savings could be frozen at any moment, you move fast. You build alternatives. You diversify away from risk. And that's exactly what the world is doing. Here's what's happening behind closed doors. Central banks are panicking. Not publicly. Publicly, they say everything is fine. But behind closed doors, they're moving fast. Last month, the Bank of Japan sold $63 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds. That's not normal. That's not gradual. That's panic selling. The European Central Bank quietly reduced their dollar reserves by 18%. That's not accidental. That's strategic. Even tiny countries like Kazakhstan are negotiating oil deals in currencies other than dollars. This isn't coordination. This is survival instinct. When rats flee a sinking ship, they don't hold a meeting first. They just run. And that's what's happening. Every central bank is asking the same question. How do we reduce our dollar exposure without triggering a collapse? Because if they all sell at once, the dollar crashes. And a dollar crash hurts everyone, even the countries selling. So they're doing it slowly, quietly, methodically, replacing dollars with gold, replacing dollars with alternative currencies, replacing dollars with cryptocurrencies, building new payment systems, negotiating bilateral trade agreements, creating alternatives. The transition is happening in slow motion, but it's accelerating. And every month, more countries join the exodus. The finance ministers know. The central bankers know. The smart money knows. And that's why they're moving. Let me put this in perspective. Global financial assets are worth approximately $100 trillion. Stocks, bonds, real estate, currency reserves. $100 trillion. That's the entire global economy. Now, imagine what happens if just 10% of those assets lose confidence in the dollar. That's $10 trillion, flowing out of dollar-denominated assets, into alternatives, into gold, into cryptocurrencies, into other currencies, into real assets. When $10 trillion starts moving, markets move. When $20 trillion starts moving, economies move. When $50 trillion starts moving, systems collapse. And here's the scary part. It's already starting. The Bank of Japan sold $63 billion in treasury bonds. That's just the beginning. The European Central Bank reduced dollar reserves by 18%. That's just the beginning. Kazakhstan is negotiating oil deals in other currencies. That's just the beginning. Every month, more countries diversify. Every month, more corporations find alternatives. Every month, the exodus accelerates. And once it reaches critical mass, it becomes a stampede. Because nobody wants to be the last one holding dollars. When the first 50% of the world diversifies, the second 50% panics. When the second 50% panics, they all sell at once. And when everyone sells at once, the price collapses. This is monetary physics, not conspiracy theory, not speculation. Monetary physics. Every empire that tried to finance itself by printing money ended the same way. Rome debased its coins. Weimar printed Reichsmarks. Zimbabwe printed trillion-dollar notes. The United States is not exempt from mathematics.
There are 4 stages to this transition. Stage 1 is already complete. The trust has been broken. When the US froze Russian assets, they didn't just sanction Russia. They sanctioned the entire concept of dollar neutrality. Every finance minister on earth looked at those frozen accounts and asked the same question. If they can do it to Russia, why not to us? Stage 2 is happening right now. The infrastructure replacement. China's CIP system is processing more transactions every month. Russia's SBFS network is connecting new countries weekly. India's bilateral trade agreements are bypassing dollars entirely. These aren't experimental projects anymore. They're operational reality. Stage 3 begins in 2026. Mass adoption, when Saudi Arabia officially announces yuan-denominated oil contracts. When the BRICS currency goes live. When central banks openly diversify away from dollar reserves. When corporations openly use alternative payment systems. When the transition stops being secretive and becomes official. Stage 4 is the cascade. When dollar demand collapses, dollar value follows. When dollar value collapses, dollar-denominated debt becomes unpayable. When debt becomes unpayable, the system resets. This isn't happening in 2050. This isn't happening in 2040. This is happening now. In 2025, the timeline is accelerating. The infrastructure is ready. The alternative systems are operational. The finance ministers have made their calls. The central bankers have made their decisions. The transition is no longer coming. It's here.
The signs are everywhere if you know how to read them. Last month, the Bank of Japan sold $63 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds. The European Central Bank quietly reduced their dollar reserves by 18%. Even tiny countries like Kazakhstan are negotiating oil deals in currencies other than dollars. This isn't coordination. This is survival instinct. When rats flee a sinking ship, they don't hold a meeting first. They just run. The most dangerous part for Americans isn't the economic collapse. It's the political chaos that follows. When ordinary people realize their government has been writing checks it can't cash, democracy becomes mob rule. When savings disappear and pensions evaporate, elections become revolutions. We've seen this movie before. Argentina in 2001, Greece in 2015, Venezuela in 2018. The script is always the same. First, the politicians promise everything will be fine. Then they blame foreign enemies. Then they print money and hope nobody notices. Finally, they lose control. But there's still time to position yourself correctly. The smart money isn't fighting the trend. It's riding it. The transition is inevitable. The timeline is accelerating. The opportunity is unprecedented. But windows don't stay open forever. Those 3 phone calls I told you about, they were just the beginning. Next week, there will be more calls, more meetings, more desperate attempts to hold together a system that's already falling apart. You can wait for permission to protect your wealth, or you can realize that in the new economy, permission is the one thing you don't need.
Here's what makes this different from every previous currency collapse. For the first time in history, there are alternatives that governments can't control. Bitcoin doesn't care if Congress defaults. Ethereum doesn't care if the Fed raises rates. Decentralized networks don't care if Washington threatens sanctions. The old financial system was a pyramid with the dollar at the top. The new system is a network with no center, no single point of failure, no king to overthrow. This terrifies central bankers, but it should excite you. Because for the first time in human history, ordinary people have access to the same financial tools that governments use to protect themselves. You can hold assets that cross borders instantly. You can trade value without permission. You can store wealth without counterparty risk. The empire built walls to keep its wealth inside and competitors outside. But the internet made walls irrelevant. Money flows like water, and water always finds a way. The United States spent decades forcing the world to play by American rules. Now the world is simply building new games. And in these new games, geography doesn't matter. Citizenship doesn't matter. Only mathematics matters. The systems that let China bypass U.S. banking can protect your wealth from U.S. monetary policy. The empire is ending, but the world isn't. The future belongs to those who adapt fastest to the new rules. While governments fight over the old system, smart individuals are building wealth in the new one. The choice is yours. You can go down with the empire, or you can become a citizen of the world that's replacing it.
Let me show